Austin. How you doing today?
Good, Dad. How are you today?
I'm good. I'm excited because I feel like I'm going back home a little bit with this person we're going to talk to today, Austin. But our conversation is going to take us back to the Berg, the city of champions, the home of the black and gold, the terrible towel, and one of Pittsburgh's hometown heroes. His accolades speak for himself. 6-year NFL playing career, 22 years coaching in the NFL, but 15 as the Steelers head coach. Super Bowl champion, Steeler Hall of Honor, and Pro Football Hall of Fame. But this is a story about the heart of a man, a blue-collar kid, and those who encouraged him along the way. My name is Ken Karcher, and my son Austin will be beside me today. And today we welcome Bill Cowher as our guest to Awaken Kingdom Culture, where hearts and minds come alive, one story at a time. Welcome, Coach.
Hey, Ken, Austin. Good to be on with you guys.
Well, we are so glad to have you, Coach. And we want to jump right in and take you back to growing up days with your family. Could you tell us a little bit about your family and how growing up in the Cowher home made you who you are today, Coach?
Yeah, Ken, I think, I grew up in Canton, Pennsylvania, about 4 miles from Acroshore, which was, first it was Three Rivers Stadium. It became Heinz Field. It's still the same space. It's just a different stadium. But, I grew up there in the 70s, and went to high school at Carleton High School. And we lived in the suburbs. My father was an accountant. My mother worked sometimes at lunch hours. I had a paper route when I grew up. I worked the entire time I was in high school in the summertime, whether it be in a nursery, a lot of manual labor type of things. And again, really enjoyed it. And then I went to North Carolina State from there. But I came back my first couple of years and worked as a Boilermaker back in Pittsburgh and made some money so I could just spend it there. But, I grew up there and played Pop Warner football for the Canton Little Cougars, my first indoctrination into the game. And it was special. And I think you learn very early. It's not how many times you get knocked down, because you get knocked down a lot as a kid. It's how many times you continue to get back up. It's kind of a mantra I kind of live by, you're going to be defined more about your degree of resiliency that you have. And, they have the humility about where you're at. And, you learn very early in Western Pennsylvania, as you know, that you learn about competition, and you learn about the importance of giving it all, the element of teamwork, of sacrifice, of preparation, being able to compete. When it's all said and done, you leave it all out there, and you do whatever it takes to win. And winning was important. And if you didn't win, you find different ways. And maybe you realize you need to change or tweak some things, where it's in how you prepared or how you played, or even in life. Sometimes it's a road that you have to kind of deviate off of sometimes. And I think those are lessons you learn very early, growing up in Pittsburgh, about blue work. It's blue collar. It's hard work. It's preparation, and it's whatever happens, you live by it, you grow from it, and you move on.
A lot of people, Coach, see you on TV and they think that, Bill Cowher made it there and it's easy to make it there. And they use those words, making it. But what we realize, and we all know this, there's many people along the way that were your mentors or voices that breathed life into you that had an impact on your identity, philosophy, and approach to the coach you were. And I know Austin wants to ask you about the main one. So why don't you ask him, Austin?
Yeah. Can you tell us a little bit about your dad and, just some of the memorable conversations you've had with him?
Yeah, it's a funny, Austin. I got a book out there, Heart and Steel, and I talk a lot about my father. He molded a lot of who I am today. And 3 really important things that he taught me, a number, in so many words and so many different examples of. Number 1 is never quit. He never let me quit anything. If you didn't like it at first, you signed up for it. You're going to finish it out. So, and his meaning was, if you quit once, you'll quit again. So it's kind of like understanding perseverance is a very important thing. The second thing was work harder than the other person. Many times I got an example of, a true story is, I was leaving one time and I said, Dad, I'm going to go down to the pool. And I was, middle school, and he said, you're going to the pool, but you're not going to work out today. I go, no, I'm not going to work out. He said, well, it's okay. He goes, I'm sure Johnny from Peters Township is probably working out, but that's okay. I go, well, you know what? I go, I'll work out when I get back. He goes, sure. He goes, enjoy yourself. So I'm like, he goes, but Johnny didn't. He's probably not going to go to the pool. I said, I go, well, that's Johnny. I'm going to be me. I walked out of the house. I got about a block down. I go, damn. I go, no. I went back. I went in there. I put the weights in. I started putting the weights. We got to work on. I'm so mad. I kept talking about Johnny. So one of the best workouts I had, and I go, Dad, I'm going to the pool. He goes, I didn't even know you came back. I go, oh yeah, you did. You knew I was in there. So it's one of those little things, And he goes, have fun. I'm more like, yeah, right. There's no fun. I don't even want to go there now. But and then the last thing was, never be intimidated by anyone or anything. Self-confidence. It's hard for anybody to believe in you if you don't believe in yourself. So I think it was very, very important. He taught me very early to have self-confidence. And that's all about preparation. It's about the time you put in, the sacrifices that you make, when the little things you do as Johnny, when no one's looking. The things that you do when no one's looking. And only you can answer those questions. So many times we do things in front of people and we want to satisfy what they said. But what are the things you do when no one else is looking? The little things you sacrifice, the little things that you commit yourself to. That's what makes you better. That becomes a little bit of the edge that you have, because a lot of times in life, it gets lonely. It gets lonely at the bottom. It gets lonely at the top. And to be able to have that self-commitment, that self-confidence, and that self-resiliency about not being defined by the times you get knocked down, but being defined by the times you continue to get back up and to continue to strive for something. And that's the thing to me that he instilled in me.
That's awesome. Coach, can you tell us about some of your earlier influences as far as, your athletic career, maybe your high school and college career?
Yeah, my high school coach was great. I went to Carleton High School. We had about 23 guys on the team. We went from offense to defense. My brother came in. We only had we all played both ways. And our high school coach was awesome. Bill Yost was a guy and taught me how to long snap, and just, it was a really close team. I think that's the one thing I said about having a small group of team, a small team from Carleton. We bonded. I mean, we used to hang out at Saturday nights after a game, or Fridays, or during the course of the week. And, it was a little bit of a chemistry that we had, a bond that we had, so to speak. You talk about the bond that you have in the locker room. We had that very early on. And then you went to college. I went to North Carolina State, not knowing anybody going down there. Lou Holtz recruited me.
Really?
Went down there, and I was able to start pretty early on as a freshman because of injuries. And again, the group of guys I had down there, I still talk to today. So the one thing about football, I think, is that's pretty special is the locker room. It's the bond you have in there, and it's a degree of sacrifice. You're out there on the field. You're in the fourth quarter of a game. You're getting your butt kicked, but you keep seeing everyone laying it on the line. There's something about that makes it very special. It kind of keeps you very, very close. And we all know what it's like, the sweat and the tears. And I saw the locker room last week in the Minnesota Vikings, and are holding up the quarterback of who's the quarterback?
Sam Darnold.
Sam Darnold. Yes. Hold up. And so I keep Ken Karcher. I keep Ken Karcher in my head for quarterback. So Sam Darnold.
I wish I was in there.
I know, but they're holding them up. And what that showed to me, and you see Kevin O'Connell in the background, that special culture, a special bond that's in that locker room, that chemistry that was in there, those are really hard to repeat in real life. And that's what you really have in a game of football, to me, is that locker room. That's very, very special. If there's anything I miss from coaching today, is being in that locker room after a win, and even being in that locker room after a loss, and talking about how this will not define us, and that we will be resilient and we will be back.
Awesome. Now, I know when our paths crossed in 1990 and I was having a cup of tea at the Kansas City Chiefs, I know that Marty Schottenheimer was special in your life, Coach. Talk to us about Coach Schottenheimer.
Yeah, I played for Marty in Cleveland. I came out of NC State. I was cut my first time with the Philadelphia Eagles. I went back down, got in school, and I got my degree. And actually was a GA, which actually one of my first time coaching was with Bo Ryan as a GA, coaching the linebackers, guys that I just played with before. And that's when I kind of realized I really liked coaching. And so I went up to Cleveland, and 1980 was a Cardiac Kids, and I was with them, and Marty was the defensive coordinator. I was coaching linebackers. And I was playing linebacker, inside linebacker. And then I learned to play outside linebacker because I was pretty smart. So I ended up becoming that swing guy on game day that could back up both inside and outside. It's kind of those things you first learn about. The more you can do, the more valuable you become. And so And I played for him for 3 years. I got traded to the Philadelphia Eagles. And then in '84, when Sam Rutigliano was fired, they named Marty as the head coach. He called me up and wanted to know. I got hurt in the fourth game. I was on injured reserve at the time with the Eagles. I was special teams captain in my fifth year. Best year, like the year before was the best year I've ever had. He said, "You want to get into coaching and I said, be a special teams coach." And I said, "Well," he goes, "What are you going to make next year?" I go, "I'm probably going to make like 150." And he says, "Well, you're going to make 3 times as less and work 3 times more. I can offer you $50,000. You need to let me know by Friday." And so I kind of hung up the phone. I go, "Well, so much for negotiations. I guess it's either take it or not." And it gave me a couple of days just to sit down and really think about in my lifetime, like, what do I really want to do? Could I play it a couple more years? No question about it. I was a special teams captain. But as a player, there was a limited time. I only had 2 or 3, maybe 4 more years. Somebody's going to come in and beat me out. And I knew that. And coaching was something I had a little taste of it at NC State, and I really liked it. And so when I got traded, though, the one thing Marty did say to me, he goes, "Hey, Cowher, one day I got hurt, broke my hand, I think in a game. The next day we had a practice because the day after the game, I was out there with a pad on that rubber pad on my hand. I didn't miss a beat." He goes, "Cowher, you're pretty tough and you're pretty smart. Someday I'm going to hire you." And I got traded that same training camp to the Eagles. And then when he got the job, he called me up. And I said yes right away because I knew it was something I loved to do. I loved to teach. I loved being around players and being able to be a teacher in terms of trying to find ways to do it. I had a teaching degree out of NC State. And I love the game. I love the philosophical approach of the game. I love the game itself. Coached special teams for 2 years, and then I coached the secondary for 2 years. And so, and then when Marty ended up getting fired and going to Kansas City in 1989, I went with him and went from defensive back coach to coaching linebackers and being a coordinator. And I was with him. Me, Tony Dungy, and Tom Pratt were the defensive side of the ball. And but most fun I probably had coaching with Marty, and I learned so much from him. I think I learned so much about preparation, his even keel approach to things. He left no stone unturned. Anything that we wanted to do blitz zone wise, or try to do some things that were a little unconventional. He made sure we had everything covered. What if they go empty? Who's got this guy? Well, they can't go empty because they can't block this guy. But if they do come out hot, who's going to cover them? Okay, so we start putting linemen. We start putting defensive linemen on these guys, and you see it today. The evolution of the zone blitz really has come from the time that Tony and I had to sit down and talk about, and then we about, okay, we got to have all 5 of these eligibles have to get covered. I know they can't get to them, but we have to find out who they are, and we're going to give number 3 strong, whoever that may be, to an off defensive lineman. Just count, just there's 5 eligibles. Just find 3 strong. Don't be and be a little bit like smug about it. Don't be look up for coverage. You're a defensive lineman. They know something's up. Okay, so we did that in Kansas City. We took it to another level in Pittsburgh, and really become a little bit of the blueprint of what we did was the blitz zone concept, fire zone as they want to call it today. And we did play cover 2 with it, and we try to keep taking it to another level. But just the concept of overloading protections and trying to get a guy free. I loved that. I was intrigued by that. And my whole thing was breaking down a protection. If I can get a guy free on you and bring 4 to one side, maybe 1 from the other side, and still play a cover 2, cover 4, maybe in a fire zone concept, but get a guy free. That to me is the ultimate chess match and a chess move. And so that was what intrigued me about the game. And even to this day, I love the game of football, the strategy part of it, the motivational part of it, and you can see the competition that exists every week on Sundays.
Absolutely.
Austin, all these guys like hitting the quarterback, Yeah. Let me interrupt you for a moment. I'm grateful for the opportunity that I have to do this podcast with my son, Austin. For the last 10 years, Austin and I have had many intimate conversations on his drive home from work. Some of these father-son conversations have been lighthearted, while others have been very deep and emotional. Over the Christmas holidays, we decided to start a podcast called Awaken Kingdom Culture, where we invite our friends to share their life-changing stories with you, our listeners. This podcast is done under our nonprofit, The Win Awakening, a sports ministry network for coaches, athletes, and those who lead. Our vision is to awaken hearts and minds, one story at a time. Our mission is to encourage coaches and athletes and those who lead to live from a place of victory, regardless of success, records, or the scoreboard. Our goal is to create safe environments where transparency and vulnerability are accepted, and value and worth are recognized in an atmosphere of love. Right in the middle of your mess, I'm reminded daily that the most important person of my day is the one in front of me, and that one matters, and that you are the one. WinAwakening.org is our website. I encourage you to visit our website where you can encounter the good news of who you are in Christ and what you already possess and how to live from it. There you'll find blogs, videos, Andrew's journal, and this podcast, Awaken Kingdom Culture, where hearts and minds come alive, one story at a time. I'm thankful for all of you who have given and are a member of Team Win. Awaken Kingdom Culture is listener supported. And if you'd like to support us, you can go to winawakening.org. We are a nonprofit. I encourage you to follow us on Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, and Instagram. And please like, share, and write a review on Spotify or YouTube. Okay, it's time to get back to the podcast.
So, Coach, tell us about the Steeler organization. Obviously, you get hired there, and obviously growing up in Pittsburgh. What tell us a little bit about what that organization's like?
Well, Austin, I mean, it's pretty much what you see. You kind of know. I always thought there was a little bit of mystique when I got there. I mean, I was 34 years old. Very, very young. My first goal was to go back to my 20th high school class reunion as a head coach of my hometown team. So my first goal was not to get fired the first 3 years. I was able to do that and go back to my 20th high school class reunion and my 30th, to be honest with you. So, but you go back there and having grown up there and the mystique of the Pittsburgh Steelers. What's the mystique? Like you walk into that building, what is it like? And quite frankly, it's like walking into your house. It's a home. It is a tremendous family atmosphere to what you're doing. There's an obligation you have as a Pittsburgh Steeler, not just to the team, but it's also to the community. I think that's the one thing I learned very early with Dan Rooney is we represent this city. A city, and when I came back there, the renaissance of what Chuck Noll did in the 70s and bringing back the pride, people walked a little bit taller, a little bit more chest out, having the 4 Super Bowls in that era. The Steel Curtain, Terry Bradshaw, Franco Harris. That was just a great history and the legacy of what the Pittsburgh Steelers were about. And you feel the obligation of following Chuck Noll. No one's going to do what Chuck Noll did. I just wanted to be Bill Cowher and try to make sure I can bring it back to the prominence that it was. And along the way is keeping the core values of teamwork, of preparation, of community, of selflessness, not selfishness. The things collaboration that we have in the building, the transparency that we had in everything that we did. There were very little lines of delineation. We all knew what responsibilities were, but when we got into a room, we made a decision that was a collaboration of a lot of people. Not everyone agreed with it, but when we left the room, it was a Pittsburgh Steeler decision. And you kind of just felt that when you walked in there. There's like you kind of check your ego at the door, come on in, let's all get this right. I know at times it's not going to be pretty. At times I'm going to ask you to do things you're not comfortable with. At times I have to make some tough decisions, whether it be with a player, whether it be with a coach. But my obligation when I got there was to bring that 5th trophy into that building for Dan Rooney. And that's what drove me each and every year I was there, because I felt like my Dan Rooney to me was my boss. He was like a father at times to me, and he was like a friend at times to me. And so, I really had a special bond with him, and still do with the Rooney's family, with Art, and it's all started with the chief. Um, there were family values in there, and again, it was about doing the right thing and making sure you understand that we represent the community, and making sure you make Pittsburgh proud. We're kind of a lunch pail group. We come in and we do our work. We don't ask for any accolades. We don't ask for any kind of praise. We kind of do our thing, and we let our actions speak for ourselves. And we're very humble about it. Very humble about everything that we're able to achieve. Have humility in winning, and be graceful in losing.
Wow.
Wow, well said, Coach. Well, it wouldn't be right if we left out probably the most important people, and that's your family. I know your three girls are people that really have impacted your life, as well as your wife, and want to tell us a little bit about them?
Yeah, I was blessed. I met my late wife in college, and she was a basketball player and professional basketball player as well. And so she knew me from the college days, and she was with me the entire time. We had three daughters, and they all played basketball in high school. Well, they all played basketball in college. Two of them went to Princeton, one went to Wofford, then moved to Elon. When I stepped down, my wife was not in a great place. She ended up passing away 3 years later to cancer, to melanoma. And, I never really went back. I've met my current wife. We've been married for over 10 years now. And she's my three daughters' lover. We've got 8 grandkids. My current wife has been there for the birth of every one of them. I've been a very blessed man. Women have played a big part in my life. It's given me great balance. I used to always say I had 53 boys at work and I got 3 daughters at home. I said there's 3 things, the same things that you talk about. It's choices and consequences, number 1. Okay, they talk about the players, my daughters. Second, number 2, it's the people you surround yourself with. So, pick your friends wisely. And number 3, nothing good happens after midnight. So I said, those are my 3 things I talked to the team about. I talked to my daughters about. And, they gave me great balance and great perspective in life, and even do still to this day. Blessed to be at CBS for 18 years, great platform, beautiful wife now. Her name's Queen Veronica. She's an artist. Her name's Queen V. You can look her up on Spotify. And the 3 daughters, they're there with 8 grandkids. I'm a blessed man. I have a wonderful family. We're very close. And like I said, I've lived a pretty blessed life.
Coach, when you look at some of your moments or memories, things that others may never get to experience, what was it like when you got the call from the Steelers and said, we're hiring you as our head football coach?
Yeah, it was pretty surreal. I was in Kansas City at the time, and just, I came in, and it was like a 2-week process. And Mr. Rooney would keep calling me, and my wife would be on the other side, like, what do you say? What do you say? I'm going, yes, maybe. No, and like, what was the question? He goes, well, you want to know, what are you doing are you going to this weekend? One of your kids' games? I'm going, yeah. Are they pretty good in soccer? I'm going, yeah. So are you going to be able to make the other kids' games? I go, maybe. So I'm like, all these questions he's asking me, they're all about family. He just wanted to get to know me more as a person. Very, very little about football. I did all that in my first interview. Talked about my vision, talked about my staffing that I would have. But after that, it was trying to get to know me as an individual and as a person. And through my 15 years, I think with Dan, we spoke every day. And rarely did football come up. It was really about the state of the National Football League. It was about the state of the city of Pittsburgh, what we can do to make the community better. How can we be more involved with some of the charities that he was involved with and trying around the city? How are you doing? How's the family doing? And so you're around that for 15 years, and it kind of makes you, that's the way you live life. You just you're thinking more about others and what your real role is in life is your ability to leave your degree of wisdom with other people, and the things that you've learned along the way, to share that with people, and to have humility, and to understand in this world today where I feel like there's so much entitlement that's out there, where people want to run away from competition and go into a transfer portal. They want to know what do I get from me with NIL? What about this? How about doing something for your teammate? What about the fact you have to work for a job? And sometimes the best thing that can happen to you is getting knocked down. Yeah. Too many times in this life that we don't learn the lessons that are there when people challenge you. They push you to be maybe a better person than you really are, as opposed to always patting you on the back. So I don't know. I look at how I grew up in Pittsburgh. I go back to my father. Quit feeling sorry for yourself. Self-pity is never going to be an answer to anything. It's called work. It's called work harder. It's
Mm,
find a different way of doing it.
mm,
Quit being a whiner, be a winner. And so it's just like, and so, and I guess those are the things to me about that I grew up understanding, learning. It was kind of re-emphasized to me anywhere I went. And that was kind of the message I try to leave with people about the fact that, again, be resilient.
mm.
Don't feel like you're entitled. Prove yourself every day you wake up. Look at every challenge as an opportunity. Don't look at it as anything more than that. It's an opportunity to prove people wrong. It's an opportunity to grow a little bit better. It's an opportunity to maybe to show and be an inspiration to others when people say you can't
Mm.
do something and you do it.
Mm.
Somebody else is watching. Everybody's
Yeah.
watching, and you can prove people wrong. We were a 6th seed. No 6th seed ever won a championship before. And I told that story. You know what? Because we had lost so many championship games, and I remember that Wednesday walking in for the playoffs, 6th seed. And I told a story about Christopher Columbus. Well, I said this, when Christopher Columbus set off to find America, everyone told him, "Don't do it. The world is flat. You're on a death mission because you're not going. Why are you doing this? And why are people following you?" And so my point is like, that don't let history dictate your future. Go
Yeah.
like Christopher Columbus did. Go discover America and let your future become history. So I
Wow.
said, that to me was a message I try to leave with our team. They tell us we can't do it, something. Thank you. That's all I need to hear. Tell me I can't do something. Thank you. That's all we need to hear, because you know what? Nothing better than life than to prove people wrong.
Amen.
Austin, ask your Austin, and we'll go to legacy in a minute.
Yeah, Coach, tell us, what it was like to get your name called to go to Canton and go to the Hall of Fame.
Yeah, very humbling. I guess the first thing I thought about were the people that weren't there. The
Mm-hmm.
people like my father, my mother, who was the greatest nurturer. We keep talking about my father, but my mom was there every step of the way. She
Mm,
was the one that was patting me on the back. My dad was walking away. Don't dwell in self-pity. They played good cop, bad cop as anybody could, as good as anybody could do it. And you know what? It made me a better person. It really is, because I embrace it, and I try to be very, very. Um, I'm a pretty loving person. I really, really am. I'm not the guy you see out there. I love to compete, but I got humility about me. I'm compassionate. We need to be compassionate, and so that part of it, they weren't there. Dan Rooney wasn't there, and Marty Schottenheimer wasn't there. So you're talking about the most important, impactful people in my life was my parents, Marty, and Dan Rooney. And those 4 people I thought were looking down upon me on that particular night when I stood on that stage. And that's why I had time to take a step back. And when they told me that Saturday night on national TV, I was just like, okay, you just got a whirlwind of things. Like, who do you want to thank and who do you want to do? But you just have to sit back when it's all said and done and think about the people that weren't there. My wife was there. My daughters were there. They got to see it. Yes, which is great. But I just think about the other people along the way of all our journeys that sometimes they don't see the impact they had and where you get. And that's what you feel bad about, because they were as impactful as anybody I had in my life.
Mm. Legacy, Austin. Let's close it up.
Coach, how did you create an environment for your players and coaches to learn and grow?
Being honest with them, having transparency, patting them on the back when they did it right, pushing them when they didn't do it right. But I was always there for them. I
Mm,
think that's the biggest thing, is I cared about them as people.
Mm.
Football is not for everybody. And I used to say, this is not for everybody. It's get comfortable being uncomfortable. I'm going to make you uncomfortable because that's the only way I think you can become the best version of who you are. I'm
mm,
not attacking you as a person. I'm just going to keep pushing you as a player. And
mm,
so I respected them as people. I respected everywhere, all the different uh, upbringings that where they came from. There was people in there that were 21 with money for the first time. There was people in there that were 34 with 4 kids. So we all had to kind of have these little barriers we had to break down. And so we became a family. I told them the things they did. Sometimes they didn't want to hear, but they needed to hear. I also picked them back up and made sure that they didn't beat themselves up when it went too bad. So I used to always say, you're never as good as you think you are. You're never as bad as they say you are. It's never as good as it seems. It's never as bad as it appears. And so that's the way life is. So
Mm.
again, I go back to the same thing. Every situation you go through is a lesson learned, and again, humility is great, and being graceful is great, so I mean, it's just, these are the two things in life I think that are very constant, because a lot of things come and go. Life, it becomes up and down. And I think they always knew that I was there for them. I had an open door policy with them. You asked a tough question, expect a tough answer. I was honest with them. I was fair with them. I also loved them, and they knew that. And a lot of times, as being a father with kids, we don't always see things the same way. You don't always understand why maybe I make you do something, but as you get older, you will. You understand it. It'll all kind of fall in place. I don't expect you to understand it. I expect you to trust me and know that I love you.
Coach, it's amazing. As you know, we had Dick Vermeil on here, and he also said, don't be afraid to tell them you love them. And it's amazing to hear two Hall of Fame coaches talking about loving their players and creating environments to where they know they're loved. And Coach, with all the relationships that you've made in this profession, how does Bill Cowher want to be remembered?
He was fair. He respected the game and respected people. He's a good guy. He's a good guy. That's a good man.
Well said. Coach, we always end with what we call final words. Maybe there's something we didn't ask you that you'd like to share, or something on your heart. And when you're done, Austin will share something and I'll close us up.
Yeah, I go back. I probably said it earlier in this podcast, but I know the one thing that Dan Rooney used to always say to me. My father never used those words, but he implied them. Do the right thing. Just do the right thing. And he always used to sit there and say, what's the right thing? Well, if you're grown up the right way, you got the right core values, you understand right and wrong, you'll do the right thing. And so I always kind of live by that. At times when things seem convoluted, things complex, it's pretty simple. Just do the right thing. And so that's kind of what I live by.
Well, Coach, for me, I just want to say thank you for taking time to talk to us. I know for me, I can sense your passion, even today. And, I grew up in Pittsburgh around the time you were coaching. So I remember every Sunday going over to my grandpa's house and watching the Steelers play. And, everything you talk about, if you're not from Western Pennsylvania, that's the culture there of the whole town. And sitting here getting to listen to that, and just to, the toughness and, the mindset. I mean, these were the things that came out of my dad's mouth, that came out of my grandfather's mouth. I mean, and it's just it's a blue collar town that works hard, and they come together under one name. And I think just getting to listen to hear, your story, talks about that community and that culture. And I'm just thankful for that. And just, your heart, obviously you're, one of the tops in the profession, and you've had two great careers as coach and, in broadcasting. And, I'm just, grateful for your heart and, what you do for helping people grow. I mean, that's really what a coach is someone who, can take someone from where they are and be the best versions of themselves, like you said. And, I'm just thankful for your ability to communicate all that and what you've done over your time as a coach and what you're doing now. So thank you, Coach.
Yeah, and I'll just leave one last thing. And Austin, I think what your father is also really symbolizes what Western Pennsylvania people are all about. He had a passion as well. He followed a dream. He's still living the dream now. And I have an opportunity at times, because of my platform, to share my wisdom that I gained, as your father is doing now. And so, Ken, what you're doing with this series of podcasts, what you're doing with that, it's the same thing. If you can touch one person's heart, and change one person's life, it's worth it. And I just know you're in it for all the right reasons. And I think you live by also that same mantra: just do the right thing. And I think you two are doing the right thing right now. Austin, you got a great father, and just listen to you articulate your upbringing. Clearly, the apple wasn't fallen too far from the tree. So,
Coach,
I thank you for being on.
Well,
I
thank you,
appreciate those kind words. And, I'd be lying. I can't say I have favorites on the podcast, but, you can't take Pittsburgh out of someone. And when I look at you, and you're living in New York, I've married a New York girl, but once you've grown up in Western PA, there's some special tie there. So I just appreciate you, Coach, your heart. And we follow you all the time. And as a Pittsburgher to a Pittsburgher, we love you, Coach, and appreciate you.
Yins are the best.
Yins are the best. That's right. And Myron, I want to talk about Myron Cope today too. But Coach Austin, I'd like to thank you for sharing your story with us and our listeners. And at Awaken Kingdom Culture, where hearts and minds come alive, one story at a time.